Welcome back to The Explainer. We're jumping right into what is shaping up to be one of the most chaotic, structurally fascinating, and high-stakes periods in modern football history, the summer 2026 transfer window. We're looking at an absolute perfect storm here. You've got an unprecedented amount of managerial turnover across Europe's elite. You have the iron-fisted enforcement of financial regulations like PSR dictating literally every penny spent, and of course, the massive commercial pressure of the looming 2026 FIFA World Cup. It's a really complex web, but we're going to untangle the whole shebang together.
So I want you to think about this right off the bat. What actually happens when you smash together a looming World Cup, incredibly strict financial rules, and just an unprecedented managerial bloodbath? Because that is exactly what we're watching unfold right now. In football, causes at the executive level directly lead to effects on the pitch. When a manager gets sacked, a domino falls. That fallen domino forces a club to hire a replacement, which completely shifts their tactics, which then immediately shatters and reshapes the entire global transfer market. Okay, let's dive into this timeline because the sheer velocity of these changes over the first half of 2026 is mind-blowing. Back in January, Manchester United dismissed Ruben Amorim, and Real Madrid parted ways with Xabi Alonso amid some really deep player unrest. By March, a totally desperate Tottenham hired Roberto De Zerbi just to save them from relegation. Fast forward to May, and Enzo Maresca officially takes the reins at Manchester City following Pep Guardiola's legendary departure. And then in June, the ultimate blockbuster drops. Jose Mourinho makes a dramatic return to Real Madrid. Every single one of these dates acted as a massive catalyst for the transfer chaos we're seeing this summer.
Here is a quick roadmap for today's Explainer. We'll start with the managerial merry-go-round, dive into blockbuster economics and the World Cup, look at how some clubs are exploiting the value market, and wrap it all up with Man United's midfield rebuild.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the managerial merry-go-round.
Because to truly understand why players are moving for tens of millions of pounds, we first have to understand the people who are going to be managing them. The leadership structures of Europe's elite clubs have been flipped totally upside down. 11. I just want that number to sink in for a second. That is the historic, staggering number of Premier League managers sacked during the 2025-26 season alone. Honestly, executive patience in modern football is now officially shorter than a viral TikTok video. I mean, at Nottingham Forest, they cycled through 4 different head coaches in a single campaign. This kind of systemic volatility essentially forced club boardrooms into total panic mode, making rapid, structural appointments just to protect their sporting assets ahead of the summer market. Now, it's really fascinating to see the stark contrast in how different clubs handle these massive transitions. Let's look at Manchester City. Pep Guardiola steps down after 10 years and 20 major trophies. Talk about massive shoes to fill, right? But City actually executed their succession plan flawlessly. They brought in Enzo Maresca, Guardiola's former tactical protege, on a fresh 3-year deal. But here's the genius part. It wasn't just about the hire. It was about squad regeneration. Over the last 18 months, City's executives aggressively integrated elite young profiles. We're talking players like Ryan Cherki, Abdulkadir Hassanov, and Marc Guehi. So Maresca walks in and inherits a healthy, modern squad primed exactly for his system, drastically reducing the friction of that transition. On the flip side, you have the completely opposite strategies happening over at Chelsea and Real Madrid. Chelsea, who were desperate for just a shred of tactical stability after a really tumultuous year, swooped in to hire Xabi Alonso, a strict possession-based builder, after his January exit from Madrid. Meanwhile, Real Madrid went the entirely opposite route. Their dressing room was actually so fractured that Fede Valverde literally sent his own teammate, Aurelien Tchouameni, to the hospital after a confrontation. So what does Madrid's president, Florentino Perez, do? He pays Benfica a massive $15 million in compensation to bring back the ultimate disciplinarian, Jose Mourinho, purely to restore absolute order. And then, well, we have Manchester United, which turned into this incredible triumph of internal interim management. After Amorim's disastrous tenure, Michael Carrick stepped up and orchestrated a truly stunning tactical turnaround. We're talking 11 victories in 16 matches to secure 3rd place and snag Champions League football. That unbelievable run not only earned Carrick the permanent job, but more importantly, it gave him the absolute power to dictate United's entire summer rebuild.
Moving right along to Section 2, blockbuster economics and the World Cup.
Now that we've seen the absolute musical chairs happening in the dugouts, let's shift our focus from the managers to the money. Why are these eye-watering deals happening the way they are, especially when everyone is operating under the crushing weight of profitability and sustainability rules? Well, take 80 million euros. That is the massive fee Barcelona committed just to snatch Anthony Gordon away from Newcastle United. And this wasn't just some random splurge. Gordon was a special request from manager Hansi Flick, who was basically blown away by Gordon's breathless pressing when they faced off in the Champions League. But it really begs the question, how on earth does a club like Barcelona, famously known for its recent financial struggles, justify an $80 million fee?
To actually understand that, we have to look at the absolute golden word of modern football finance: amortization. It's basically the accounting practice of spreading a transfer fee evenly across the entire length of a player's contract. This helps manage the annual financial impact on the club's books. Essentially, this is how clubs bend the rules of football finance without actually breaking them.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how amortization works in practice. So Barcelona had Marcus Rashford on loan, and he was fantastic for them, 14 goals, 14 assists, and he actually had a purchase clause of just $30 million. On paper, that's way cheaper than Gordon's $80 million, right? But here's the catch. Gordon is 25, meaning he can be locked into a much longer contract than the 28-year-old Rashford. When you amortize Gordon's larger fee over a long contract, the yearly FFP impact is basically identical to amortizing Rashford's smaller fee over a shorter contract. So Barcelona gets a younger player with way greater sell-on value for the exact same annual accounting hit. It is absolute financial chess.
But we can't ignore the elephant in the room driving these deals: the 2026 World Cup. This tournament is actively warping the transfer market. Barcelona rushed that Gordon deal through weeks before the window even officially opened because they knew, for a fact, if Gordon went out and had a stellar World Cup with England, his price would absolutely skyrocket and other clubs would hijack the deal. It's the exact same reason we're hearing these massive rumors of Arsenal aggressively pursuing Julian Alvarez right now, trying to get it done before the tournament inflates his value any further. The World Cup is acting as this incredible accelerant.
And we are seeing this frantic rush to back new managers with super specific tactical profiles everywhere you look. Chelsea immediately supported Xabi Alonso's touchline requirements by dropping $40 million on 19-year-old Giovanni Quenda from Sporting CP. Alonso desperately needs attackers who are comfortable staying incredibly wide for his back three system, and Chelsea moved incredibly fast to secure what is essentially the perfect puzzle piece for their new boss.
Which brings us to Section 3, the value market. Because let's be real, not everyone is dropping 40 or 80 million pounds on single players. Let's look at how some clubs are successfully counterbalancing this hyperinflated market with some incredibly smart economical strategies. Take Tottenham. Talk about a roller coaster of a season. They endured a disastrous 44-day interim spell under Igor Tudor that literally almost got them relegated. So they turned to Roberto De Zerbi, completely desperate, and he comes in and miraculously rescues their Premier League survival. Because De Zerbi pulled off that absolute miracle, he gained immense leverage. He essentially walked right into the boardroom and demanded immediate, comprehensive backing to fix their broken defense.
And honestly, look at how Tottenham's sporting director responded. It's an absolute free agent masterclass. First, they acquired Andy Robertson, bringing in elite, proven winning experience after he was released from Liverpool. Then, they snapped up Marco Senesi, a notoriously fierce 29-year-old Argentine international, handing him the vacant number 5 shirt. But the absolute best part of this entire strategy? £0 spent in transfer fees. By specifically targeting proven veterans on free transfers, Spurs perfectly preserved their FFP capital for other necessary squad upgrades down the line. It's just incredible value.
And finally, Section 4, Man United's midfield rebuild.
Let's see how this all builds up to the biggest unresolved structural project currently dominating the rumor mill right now. Michael Carrick has a massive, massive job on his hands. So, the crucial point is this. With Casemiro departing and Manuel Ugarte very likely on his way out as well, young Kobbie Mainoo is entirely alone in the center of the park. Carrick desperately needs an engine room. And here is his reported shopping list. They're supposedly nearing a $35 million+ deal for Atalanta's Aridin, who's this energetic box-to-box presence designed specifically to partner Mainoo. But they definitely aren't stopping there. They're eyeing Newcastle Sandro Tonali as a cultured playmaker, though that could cost upwards of $100 million. They've also initiated contact for West Ham's creative ball carrier Matheus Fernandes, and they're even looking at Nottingham Forest's powerful progressor Elliot Anderson. The ambition here, and obviously the required budget, is just staggering.
Which brings us to the ultimate question.
We've seen managers furiously swapped, we've seen massive FFP accounting gymnastics, and some truly brilliant free agent maneuvering. But this transfer window is far from closed. With the World Cup looming so close and strict financial rules dictating every single move a club makes, which domino is going to fall next and completely shatter the market? Keep your eyes peeled, because in this ecosystem, one single transfer can literally change the entire landscape of European football. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope you found it as fascinating as I did. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.